Well, good morning. We're going to start a new series of sermons next 4 weeks. This is our first week to get into it, and different seasons in your life. And we'll look at spring, summer, fall, and winter as seasons that a person goes through. And it can be an age thing. You know, the age is like when you're in the spring of your life, you're young, and winter and the old. It can be that. But I think the seasons have a way of moving around a little bit more than that. And we're going to talk about some of that too over the next few weeks. A lot of my thinking for the series comes from this verse here. It's actually a relatively well-known verse in Scripture. It's in Ecclesiastes. You might have heard some of it somewhere at some different time. So there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent, a time to speak, a time to love, a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. Now, the repetition of it, a time for, a time for, a time for, a time for, I think he's suggesting something there, and it's kind of the monotony of life, but it's also the randomness of it. I mean, it's just you can't control when the times come. Sometimes it's a good time, and sometimes it's a bad time, and really there's very little you can do to make sure the bad times never come, or very little you can do to make sure it's going to be good all the time. That life has a way of moving around. And it can surprise you, the different seasons that we go through. You may think you're in a warm season, an easy season, and then be hit with a sudden dose of winter. Or you may be in the middle of something where you think there's just no hope at all, and God starts to bring new life into it. And what this section is encouraging you to do is to live in such a way as that you don't hold on too tightly to what you have right now, because it's always temporary. You know, it's just a quick moving thing, and life has a way of continuing to surprise. And today, this first week, we're going to talk about spring. Now in the spring, everything is brand new. You know, in a marriage, you have newlyweds, and everything is brand new, and they just can't keep their hands off one another, talk for hours. And for some couples, that lasts for years and years and years. Other couples for days and days and days. But it can move by pretty fast. But whichever kind of couple you are, you remember that when that springtime was there and everything was easy. And then probably, again, there'll be moments where that rears its head again, you know, an easy moment there. You'll see that with your work. You know, the first time you start a job, everything's fresh and everybody's excited to have you. Boy, you're the guy we wanted. We're so glad you said yes to us. And everything is easy, you know, those first few weeks. And then eventually it gets hard. Well, you start to realize why they're paying you to do this, because it's hard. And it's a challenge, and it's difficult, and some of the guys who were so friendly at the very beginning are less and less friendly as time goes on. You certainly see it with children. We had the baby dedication here earlier, and you see it with that, and you get to see the kids grow up and to change, and each part of that is exciting. Yesterday I got to see my youngest granddaughter take first steps, and that was pretty wild and pretty exciting, and lots of videos, and everybody's awing and doing. You'll see it with the first words. And again, there's winter to that too. You know, there'll be a time when you wish they would just be quiet more often than they are. But it's exciting that first, right? It's exciting when you first start seeing it happen and the growth. Talk to a family after church. In a couple weeks, son is going to get a driver's license, and what a big thing that is. You know, yesterday he was just a walker. Today he's a danger to everyone he knows, and it goes by really fast. And it's exciting. And I'm a grandparent, and I got to talk to some people about that. A lot of grandparents are here today because they want to see the babies in front, and we welcome you guys if it's your first time ever to be here, and maybe the only time you'll be here, just see the grandkids, and that's awesome. We're so glad you're here. And I'm a grandparent, and I've enjoyed that a lot more than I thought that I would. I thought that I would enjoy it, but I've liked it a lot more than I thought that I would like it, and that has been a surprise to me. I think a lot of it has to do with the season of life that I'm in. When I was in the spring, early part of my life, you were worried about paying the mortgage and making a name for yourself in what you've chosen to do. You're worried about your reputation and all these giant bills and how are we going to pay for it and how are we going to have enough money to get things done. You're building a new marriage too, and you're trying to figure out how to keep the other person happy and productive and in a good place. And all the pressure of that as a parent is intense. But now I'm a grandparent and I don't have any of those pressures on me. And I am so thrilled when I get to see the grandkids. I don't know for sure who this one was yelling at, but what an awesome thing if it was you, right? To be the one that they get so excited about seeing. There's just nothing like that in the world, and that's just such an awesome thing. And no one warned me exactly how awesome it was going to be. And so I've told this before, but I just say yes to everything, whatever they want to do, whatever they want. Can we paint this wall? Sure, why not? Let's paint it. Because I just, you're just so happy that they think you're interesting. And because, I've been around a little while, because I am older, I know this season won't last either. And that can make you a little sad if you think about it very long. But I don't think we're supposed to meditate too hard on that. I think we're supposed to realize that the seasons are going to move and the seasons are going to change, and that's okay. We want to make the most of every opportunity. Whether we're in a springtime or a summertime, whether everything's easy or everything's hard, we want to make the most of every opportunity. We can't control 100% what season we're in. We can't control 100% what's going to go on up or down. So we just want to make the most of every chance that we have. And this verse here will probably be a theme verse for me too as I go into this thing. I want that to be something that we think about. When I first got into ministry, to doing this job, I thought it would be easy in a lot of regard. I knew there would be hard moments, but I thought that I could speak okay, and I thought that I could do a lot of the job without too much effort, and I knew I could. It wasn't something that I had wanted to do exactly. I had a different career plan when I went to school, but it felt like that's what God was pushing me towards. And it was a surprise when I got into ministry that it was so hard. I think when it's a springtime season for me, and maybe this is every job, when you're a young guy just starting out, you've got all these ideas about how we can do it better. And the older guys who have been there a little longer, they don't see it that way. And I doubt that that's just ministry. That's probably true in every job. But it was real discouraging when I was just getting started. So what I wanted to do today is I wanted to focus on a couple different things. I certainly want to focus, if I can, on young people who are in the spring of life, You're just getting started. That is in my head a little bit. I do want to focus on that just somewhat. If that's you, you're just starting to build, you're trying to get your family, your life together, you're just trying to go someplace. I kind of had you in mind as I was getting into this. So I know what it's like to be in that situation. When I was just getting started in ministry, this was a big verse for me, the one behind me. Don't let anyone look down on you because you're young, but set an example. The idea that just because I'm young doesn't mean I can't make a difference. And I remember finding a lot of inspiration in this. If I'll just try to do the things I'm supposed to do, God will use it, and I just got to let God do what he can do with it, and I'm not going to worry about it. But I also don't want to just focus on people who are in the spring of life. I don't want to just focus on that, because I think these seasons have a way of coming no matter what. And you might be a person in your 70s or 80s, but that doesn't mean that God can't strike you with a new opportunity. That doesn't mean that God won't make a new call on your life at any age, because I think that's how seasons go. So I kind of want to hit on that. And what we're going to try to do over the next 4 weeks is use Simon Peter, as our example, because he's one of the few. Josh actually gave me the idea for this a couple of months ago, but Peter's one of the few characters in the Bible that we see grow up, kind of. We see what he's like when he's first getting started, and we see what he's like towards the end of his life, and so he kind of gives us a good example of these different seasons. So I wanted to focus on him in the springtime and see if we can't find some examples from his life that we can pull out for us. So here's the story, quick story about Jesus and Simon Peter. One day, Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, and I left a footnote there to kind of remind me on the slide. Lake of Galilee, same lake. Gennesaret it's kind of a Greek transliteration of a Hebrew word, but it's the same place. If you look at a map of Israel, there's a big lake at the top, the Sea of Galilee, Lake of Gennesaret, that's that, and then at the bottom, the Dead Sea. And so this is up in that top lake, that northern lake, and Jesus is standing by the lake, and people are crowding around. So he's already kind of famous. People know about Jesus, and they want to hear Jesus talk, and they want to hear Jesus teach. He's making a big difference. And people are packing in there. And he saw at the water's edge 2 boats left there by the fishermen, and they're washing their nets. And so he got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon Peter, and he asked him to put out a little bit from shore. And then he sat down and he taught the people from the boat. Now, we'll find out later that Peter has been fishing all night and hasn't caught anything. And I kind of got in, I saw a little line in a commentary, and it led me to looking some stuff up online, and I kind of got into a rabbit hole. I didn't know much about the fishing business. I understand fishing, but I didn't understand the fishing business that went on here. People weren't allowed to free fish commercially on that lake, even then. The king of that area, a guy named Herod Antipas, made you buy a license, made you buy a permit to fish on that lake, and you had to pay him 25% of your catch. So it was hard to get those licenses. It was hard to get the deal. And then when you got the deal, whatever it was, it cost you a lot. I mean, you had to send 1/4 of your money away right off to the government. And then there were taxes all the way through. I mean, what they would do is they would salt the fish and send them to cities, and there was taxes on the salt, there was taxes on the shipping, there was taxes on everything. And still, that's which is similar to, it's every government, every world, that's how it goes. So there's taxes on everything. But it was such a high tax deal, and it was hard to get into the business. Not everybody could do it. And so Peter has got his brother, he and his brother are partners, Andrew, mentions them together in Matthew, Mark, and the other Gospels, but it mentions them. And he's also got these other 2 guys, James and John. And the 4 of them are partners, and they own this business. And so they've been fishing all night. It mentions that later in the story. We'll read that here in a second. They've been fishing all night, and they hadn't caught anything. That's a pretty big deal, because the bills still are due. The government still wants their taxes. It mentions Peter has a wife already at home, and maybe has kids. We don't know if he has kids or not, but he has a wife at home, and he may have kids. And so he's got bills to pay there too. He's got to provide. And this is an era when women certainly didn't work to the level that women work today. Most of that was on the husband. So Peter, as he's washing his nets, knows that last night was they didn't caught anything. Completely waste of time, but they were up all night. So he's tired. He's cleaning his equipment so it'll last. And then Jesus comes and says, "Can I sit in your boat while I'm teaching?" So it's hard to compare it to something in southern Indiana. But I was thinking like going to a hay field where the farmers are throwing hay into the wagon, and I asked, "Can I just sit on the top bale here and teach people for a while you're working?" What would they think of me? If I could go to a road crew and they're out there pouring the asphalt on the road, can I just sit here on the bumper of the front truck and teach the people while you're working? Do you care if I do that? What they'd think about me while I was doing that? And I would imagine in any sort of situation where manual labor was going on, but I was just sitting, that the guys doing the work would be at least a little bit resentful of that. Must be nice, must be nice. I was up all night, didn't do anything at all. I still have bills to pay, all the pressure of that, And now I'm just trying to clean up and go home, but you can sit down. Isn't that awesome? And you take a load off. You've had it hard. And I can imagine them being a little frustrated with Jesus while he's teaching. And if they are, they don't say anything. But it would seem like people being people, there'd be some aggravation. Well, when he's done, when he finished speaking, he says to Simon, "Well, let's put it out in the deep water. Let the nets down for a catch." And Peter answers him. Simon says, "Well, okay, we've worked hard all night, and we haven't caught anything. Because you say so, I'll do it." Again, I'm trying to find a southern Indiana comparison for this story. And the southern Indiana comparison I thought of is you have guests in from out of town in August, and they say, "Hey, let's go mushroom hunting. I hear you have mushrooms here. Let's go find some." And you want it to be as cool about that as you can. It's still fun to go to the woods, but we aren't going to find any mushrooms in August. I mean, it's just not. That's not going to happen. Oh, come on, I'm sure there'll be a bunch. Let's go out and find them. I don't know. And Peter knows, they're fishing with nets. They're not putting hooks. They're not putting hooks deep into the water. It's nets on the surface. And so it only works in the night when the fish are closer to the top. They don't come up to the top when it's hot. And so he knows it's a waste of time. Every work experience he has tells him this is a waste of time. But he agrees to it. It's a curious thing that he agrees to it. Not only is it a waste of time, but when they throw the nets out and they don't catch anything, he's then got to clean them again. That's what he just spent all morning doing. So he's up all night. He's cleaned nets while Jesus sat and didn't work. And now, if he throws these nets out, he's going to be cleaning them again while Jesus is probably gone, getting a sandwich someplace. And I can imagine that the whole thing about it would make him frustrated. And yet he agrees to do it, which I think is interesting. Because again, taking that southern Indiana comparison, I don't know how many serious mushroom hunters would take their friends out in August to look for mushrooms. I think most people would say, no, I'm not going to do it. But Peter agrees. So it's just a curious thing. He doesn't tell us why he agrees. Maybe it's something Jesus said, you're inspiring. What you taught this morning, that touched me. Maybe Peter's thinking that was really inspiring. It really hit me today. And because of that, I'll do it. Maybe it's that. Maybe he's heard about Jesus' reputation for doing things, miracles and stuff. Maybe he's heard about that and thinks, well, who knows? If Jesus says to do it, let's find out. Maybe, he calls him master, and there's some debate here about whether he means it like master, Lord, or like master, like mister, or, like sir. Does he mean it like he's really worshiping him, or does he just mean it like a term of respect? But if he means it like worship, but maybe Peter's already kind of coming around. Like I could see Peter saying, I could see myself being a Christian. I could see myself doing this. This makes a lot of sense. Maybe that's happening. Whatever. He agrees to do it. And when they did it, they caught such a large number of fish that the nets began to break. They signaled their partners in the other boat to come over and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. And Peter sees this. And he fell at Jesus' knees and said, go away from me. I'm a sinful man. And they were all blown away by it. He and his friends, Andrew, his brother's there, and it mentions James and John, the partners, the business partners. They just can't believe what's going on. They all see it as a miracle. Again, it's like hunting mushrooms in August and coming back with this giant truckload of mushrooms. Just nuts. And focus back on that slide before there, though. Peter, hang on, let me go back. There it is. Go away from me. Peter sees all this, and it's like he says, I know what you're doing, Jesus. I know what you're doing, and it's not for me. Now, I think that's an interesting response there. I think that's an interesting response. Not an uncommon response. It's not a wild response here, but you need to go, this is awesome, but I'm just a fisherman. I work with my hands. This is cool. I'm glad you can do things, and that's great. But he also sees what a mess he is. And it's weird that the fish make him think that, But he sees through it. He knows the fish is that's a miracle, and the miracle can only come from a miracle-working God. And then he sees Jesus on the other side of the boat laughing, and so he knows what's going on. And in the middle of all that, he's just so aware of how he's not worthy of it. Like, you should be doing things like this, Jesus, but that's not really for me. I'm just a regular guy. Well, he didn't say regular guy, he said sinful man. It's possible that Peter really was a terrible mess. Like, if you knew him, you'd say it too. Maybe he gets drunk every night. Maybe he's a little rough with his wife. Maybe he's cheating money somehow or another, I don't know. Maybe he's really doing some bad stuff. We don't know. Or maybe it's not really all that bad, but he just feels so normal, Like, there's religious people, and then there's regular people, and I'm a regular person. And it's just not you need to find somebody else. And Jesus, last slide here, he says, don't be afraid. From now on, you're going to fish for people. He gives him a new plan. We're going to change the world. That's the idea. He says, we're going to go make a difference. We're going to go affect people. And Peter takes him up on it. They pull up their nets. They left everything. Everything is the boat, the nets, the license, right? This competitive license that Peter would have had to get to work the lake. He's going to walk away from that. He walks away from all the fish. I had a friend who's one of my close friends in California was a rancher, a beef farmer, and he would talk about how seasons affect the agriculture. Not just seasons like spring, winter, and summer, but some years the money's real good. Prices are super crazy high, and when you can hit your crop at just the right time or hit your cattle at just the right time when the prices are high, what an awesome thing that is. And other times it's real low, and there's all these market variations that the farmer has very little control of, and you have to plan so far ahead. You plant the seed in the ground months before you harvest. You buy the young calves months before they're able to be sold, and you don't know for sure what it's going to be like 4 or 5 or 6 months later. So you buy your stuff early and you hope for good things. And he would talk about how a couple of years were just amazing. You know, they hit just the right time, and that always feels so good when you hit the right time. Other times it's not. Well, Peter has just hit on the right time, right? He's got 2 boats completely full of fish. They're so full they're about to sink, and he left that too. I can't imagine what he told his wife when he got home. Honey, I had the biggest catch we ever had. All our money problems would have been solved. Where is it, she says. Well, I left it. Jesus called, and I had to take him up on it. That would have led to an argument in our house, I bet. I bet that would have led to a long conversation. Would have led to a long conversation. He's got his partners, they all do it. And the other guys who fish the lake, because it's a competitive field by its very nature, would have thought he had lost his mind. But Peter knew that Jesus had offered him something that there's nothing like. Peter saw his sin and his limitations, and Jesus saw his potential, and Peter went for it. I was getting ready for this sermon. I graduated in 1986. In 86, one of the stories that year was this boat they found. I don't know if you can see it great from the back of the room, but it's like a metal frame underneath of it holding it together and holding it up. The boat was from Jesus' day. They found it in 1986. They did the carbon dating and stuff, and it's from Jesus' day. It might even be the boat that Peter leaves behind. They found it in the Sea of Galilee. It's made of cedar and oak, and it had a drought there one year, and the water got real low in a place, and they found it. And it's from that time. It's probably not the boat, but it could be. It might be the boat. Either way, it gives you an idea of what the boats were like. They were big enough for about 15 people to sit in. And there was 2 of them that were so full of fish that they couldn't control the boats any longer. The boats were about to sink. And there's one of those boats that Peter walked away from all those years ago. Decided that boat represented his old life, and he decided to strive for something new. And so what I wanted to do with the little bit of time that I have left is talk about what you should do when you're in your boat and God throws an opportunity in front of you. Something brand new and different and wild, something that answers prayer, something that you were hoping for perhaps. What should you do? Well, Peter's a good example for us, because notice what Peter's doing. He's working when the time comes. He's not waiting for something. He's already working. He's already got a family. He's already building something. He's already invested. I think sometimes there's a temptation, particularly when you're young, to wait for just the right thing to come along. I've even had people, I've seen people before coach young people with this. Teachers or people, advisors will coach young people to say, you should try to find a job that completely matches your gifts. Try to find something that you love and work at that and don't settle. And I want to say a word for settling, if I can. I want to just real briefly say a word for the other side of that. I think it's a good thing to work and to build something and to create something, and there's no shame in going to a job and working real hard at it, even if it's not something that you love. It's nice to live inside. It's nice to have indoor plumbing. It's nice to have air conditioning. And all those things cost money. And if you go out and work real hard and can provide that for yourself and for a few other people, what an awesome thing that is. It's a good thing to make this world better. Whether that's fixing cars or cleaning trash or making cookies. It's a good thing to make this world better. It's a good thing to go out there and work real hard with your hands and give your energy and your time and your effort to something. And Peter's not found the job of his life yet. He's not met Jesus. He's not found that perfect job yet. But while he's waiting for that perfect job, he's working hard. And I think that's a good lesson for us. It's not the main point of the story, but I think it's a good lesson for us too. He's already found a wife, and he's settled down with her, and he's building a family. I was real proud of the guys who got up in front earlier, and they're all building families, and what an awesome thing that is. And I don't think we celebrate it enough. I don't think we talk about it. When I was standing up there and Mark was asking me to repeat after him about all those things, I remember thinking, having this thought, I'm agreeing to do this. Will I remember to do this? Will I remember to be steady and pray and be steady and look out and be steady? And am I just saying it, or will I remember? And I know in my heart I might forget. But the bigger commitment that I'm making there, and I hope the bigger commitment you were making there when we all stood up and said those things, is we're going to look out for you. We admire what you're doing. And for those young families that got up here, let me just say it real bluntly. We admire what you're doing. And the geezers among us, I saw that a hand in the back. The geezers among us, we admire what you're doing. It's hard work. It's hard work to build a family. It's hard work to raise good kids. It's hard work to invest in that. I just can't go on enough about how hard it is. But it's the only thing. I mean, I talked to so many people today who are having trouble, and they're having trouble because mom and dad didn't pay attention, didn't care, didn't do the things they were supposed to do. Man, when you make a decision to raise a kid, you're growing something eternal, and there's such a power in that. And I just want you to know I'm behind you. What an awesome thing that is. And it's cool that you're doing it. It's powerful. It's inspiring that you're doing it. And as a church, we want to commit to be there behind you and help you out as much as we can. A lot of times after the service, particularly in this service, kids are running around the building. And we're okay with that. We don't want anybody to get knocked down, but we're okay with that. And the only thing worse than having kids run around the building is having no kids run around the building. So just want to say that up front, say it again and again and again. It's a powerful thing. I read this quote this week, getting ready for the sermon. It's attributed to John Lennon. It's in his song, Baby Boy, but he's quoting somebody else. There was a journalist who said it first. Life is what happens when you're busy making other plans. And while you're waiting for whatever thing God might have in favor for you, or whatever God might be wanting to bless you with, work real hard. Build a family. Invest in a good foundation. That's my first tip. Second tip, but be available for God if he asks you. Build that good foundation, but be available for God if he asks. Peter listens. What Jesus asked Peter to do must have seemed nuts, but he does it. He takes a chance. He follows Jesus. And that one decision, first of all, the decision to let him get on the boat while he's working, that first decision, where it'd be very easy for him to laugh at Jesus. We're working, you talk somewhere else. I mean, it would have been very easy just to dismiss him at the very beginning. He doesn't. He creates space to hear God. And that one decision starts knocking dominoes over. That one small decision opens up other doors. And all those other doors are great. But it starts with that being available to listen to God. And so my first tip to you is build that strong foundation. Work real hard, find a good job, build a family. Second thing, but be available if God asks you to risk it. Hebrews chapter 12, verse number 1 says, let's strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that entangles us, and run with perseverance the race God set up for us. Now you can read that first sentence and think that the weight he's talking about is sin. So when he says strip off the weight, get rid of the sin, weight, sin is the same thing. But I think it's probably two different things, because sin is part of it, but it's not all of it. He says get rid of the weight. You know, a serious runner pays a lot of attention to how much weight they're carrying. A casual runner does not do that. They might carry a water bottle and headphones and everything. But a serious runner, I mean, they pay a lot of attention to the weight. They'll even with the shoe design, anything you can do to shed weight. The Greeks, when Paul was writing this, the Greeks who started the Olympics would run their races naked. And I think we can agree it's good we've got rid of that. You know, a little weight is fine, but not a lot of weight. You want to be very careful, not too much weight, you know. Trim down the weight as much as you can. Every pound reduces your time. That is true for car racing. I know some people in here may be serious car racers. You want to make the car a little bit light, a little less wind resistance can make a big difference. And the guys who take that up as a hobby, the racers, the guys who decide to race cars and get serious about it, will find it's not a very easy financial decision. You're going to have to not do certain other things so the money is available for the racing, right? You strip off weight other places so you can apply it to going fast. Okay, well, Peter does that. I mean, he makes himself available. He allows some space for Jesus to get in there and to talk to him. He trusts Jesus when Jesus asks him to do something nuts. And God blesses it. I've been in ministry since 1990. I have at different times had somebody come to me and say, hey, my friend, I was talking to my friend the other night, and they brought up some stuff with Christianity, or they brought up some questions. I don't know what to do or tell them or anything like that. Could you talk to my friend or my family member? You talk to my dad, he's in the hospital, and I don't know what to say. Could you go say something to him about this? I think it's important that he hears it. And I always try to do those things. But when I get asked, and I've been asked to do those sorts of things the whole time I've been in ministry, and was in Tennessee and in California and here, and it's always something that people will ask. I will ask that person, well, why don't you say something? You're the one who actually knows them. You're the one with the influence. You're the one who they spend life with. Why don't you say something? And almost always the answer is, well, I wouldn't know what to say. I just mess it up. Who am I? Get away from me. I'm a sinful man. It's the same thing, right? And the idea of you being the preacher to open the door, well, it just seems nuts. But what if God's asking you to do it? And with Peter's openness on this thing is more qualifying than his sin is disqualifying. If that makes sense. He's humble. He knows he can't do it all, but he's willing to do whatever God asks him to do. He's available. God does his very best work with the incompetent, with the people who just barely understand anything. That's always God's best work. And God will do that work for you. He will, if you'll let him. So what we always hope for in all the things that we do with our teaching, not just today, but period, we're hoping that you make a decision to take a step closer to God, right? Maybe that's just praying that God will, just asking God to lead you, being real honest about it, just saying, God, take my life. And if you've never made a commitment to God, then make a commitment and ask him to make some sort of difference. Ask God to help you know him better. And invite God in your life. We do that with every message. That's always part of our thing. We want to encourage you to build those deep relationships here and with other people and start asking God to move through you to influence people. We want you to find something to do in God's kingdom that changes lives. We want to know God and love others and serve the world. We think this is the life worth living. And I think God whispers invitations for that all the time. And it's my hope that he's whispering to you today. Let's pray.